All right, welcome everybody to conversation number 78 with Iqbal Ali. We're so excited to have you. It's been a long time coming. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. As always, let's start by thanking Conductrix, who've been with us from the beginning. Thank you, Matt, Nate, and Ezekiel, and the entire team at Conductrix so much for supporting the TLC. And thank you to our TLC Connector newsletter sponsors, Eppo and Chameleon. And thank you, Eddie Aguilar and the Blazing Growth team for everything that you do to sponsor us as well. So meet Iqbal. If you don't know Iqbal, he is the creator of CRO Tales, and he's a freelance experimentation consultant. For more than 12 years, Iqbal has served as a co-pilot to product teams, assisting with technical implementation, process training, or as a one-man experimentation program. He is the author of comics and graphic novels and has an ongoing CRO Tales series that explores his perspective on the world of experimentation. As a developer, he's built automation and AI-based tools, including text mining AI app that quantifies user feedback and reviews, allowing the marketing and product teams to talk to the voice of customer. But my favorite fun fact about Iqbal is the new metric that he coined at Experimentation Elite, where we were together just last week, pictured here in his latest CRO Tales comic, hero per minute. Iqbal, can you share a little bit about this for us, please?
Yeah, it was basically at the Experimentation Elite. That's what it felt like. It was just bumping into one hero after another, and at very, very, very quick succession. And the acceleration of the heroes per minute was just mind-boggling. So yeah. And Sani and I were just chatting afterwards, and I think, what should my comic have to say? What should I say about the comic? And yeah, then it's like I got drawn to this as a metric. The other metric is goodbye rate. How many times you say goodbye against how many times versus before you actually leave. So but yeah. But heroes per minute was pretty much summed up my experimentation elite, I think.
I loved it, and I feel the exact same way. It was an amazing event, filled with heroes, and goodbye rate would be like the Midwest goodbye, and heroes per minute. I felt the same way. I was constantly looking everywhere. It's like they're just everywhere. It's legends in the room. It was awesome. Well done. I'm going to stop share, pass it over to you, and I can't wait for this presentation.
Cool. So let me know when you can see the screen.
Not yet.
Okay.
Try again, Iqbal.
Let me share. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we see your whole screen now.
Oh, you see the whole screen. Okay, let me stop the share. There we go. All right, you can see my screen? Cool. So I want to start with a fade in to a product manager. She opens a present. She's been patient, followed all the rules, waited till the time was right to open the present. And when she finally does open the present, she finds the box empty. So what does this mean? Basically, the box represents an experiment, and the emptiness represents nothingness. No significant results, no insights, nothing of value. It's a total and utter failure of an experiment. Thanks. That concludes my talk. Just kidding. So this is me. Like Kelly mentioned, I help product teams run experiments. A big part of this is working with product managers. And in this talk, what I'm hoping to do is share with you some insights about using AI to solve the problem of problem exploration and ideation. And hopefully what it'll do is it'll give you some ideas about how you can do the same with your teams and your processes. But first, let's take a deeper look at that opening story. And when there are tests with no insights, a PM will generally ask questions like, are we doing stats right? Do we need to move to Bayesian or frequentist? What about Cupid, power, MDE, etc., etc.? Basically, what they're asking is, can we stats our way out of this? And but if we actually take a journey against the flow of their process, we'll get to the technical implementation stage, where usually we'll find some, or maybe find some implementation issues, data and tech implementation issues. Maybe the right group hasn't been triggered into the test, or maybe the metrics weren't set up correctly, or were the right metrics being tracked in the experiment. And like I said, you usually find issues here, but if you take another trip against the flow of the process, we'll end up to design. And there we'll see some issues likely, like design not matching the hypothesis, UX related problems, suboptimal execution of an idea, etc., etc. But the journey still isn't over, because if we carry on going up the process flow, we'll get to the idea stage, where we'll see maybe it's a bad idea, or maybe bad prioritization, or maybe there's no related evidence to that idea, or maybe the MDE wasn't checked, etc., etc. And it's tempting to stop here and think that maybe if we get better ideas and prioritize better ideas, that's the key. But doing so is kind of like side shuffling from one side to another. It's like going from one idea to another. But the thing is, ideas have to come from somewhere. And hopefully, when you follow that trail and you take another trip against the flow of the process, you'll get to problem. What user problem are we trying to solve? And it's always happy to find that there is another step above idea. And I've found this to be the case when I was working with a client of mine in a recent engagement. And if we stop at this stage and take a look around and look at some of the common problems here, one of them is solution bias. And solution bias is a tendency of certain groups or individuals to favor certain solutions over others. And the thing is that humans, we think we're really creative, but really we're not. We just regurgitate old ideas, or pass on ideas from the C-suite, or pull out ideas we saw from swipe files on LinkedIn, etc. Our default state is not being creative. Worse than that is that as soon as we get a problem, we can't help but jump to a solution. So we love to solutionize. And that means that we don't spend enough time on the problem. And that leads to there being the solutions that we come up with not having any real connection to the problem, or we get suboptimal solutions. Therefore, the tests that we have no impact on the problem, or we sometimes have tests that deliver no insights whatsoever. And if we zoom out and we look at the typical process flow, so here's a typical process flow: problem to idea to execution. We'll notice there's a gap in time and resource sometimes between stages as a test is passed along this chain. And like Chinese whispers, some of the internal logic, meaning reason for doing the test is lost as it goes from one step to another. Not always. It depends on whether or not there's a very close-knit team or a big company. But usually if it's a big company, you'll get what I call relevance bleed. Now, I recommend that you don't Google this. I haven't Googled this myself, so I can't vouch for what you're going to see, especially if you do an image search. The other problem that we see at the problem stage is that there's various levels of experience amongst the product team and product managers specifically. So imagine like a Likert scale with people who are very less experienced with experimentation and with exploring problems to those who are very experienced. And the majority of people kind of sit somewhere along the left because there's not very many people I've come across who are very good naturally at exploring problems. And all of this makes me think of this classic quote from Einstein, who said, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and then 5 minutes thinking about the solution. In other words, do what nobody does. Basically, explore the problem before exploring solutions. And so I tell the PM that. So sometimes that what we think of as a problem is a child node of a larger issue tree. And it's important to identify the root cause. And we can do that by asking why multiple times. And then from the root cause, we can map out an entire issue tree. And if we explore an issue on the farmost node, well, it's something. But it's better to have explored multiple sibling nodes as we get to understand the parent node better. And if we repeat this, working our way up the issue tree, we get a really good understanding of the root cause. And this is the PM at this point. It's like, it's a reaction of a PM who told that they need to add more process. They'd be like, I know this, but the problem is that it's all too hard and time consuming. And what I don't need is more process. None of this is helping. But then again, let's look at the challenges again. Reducing solution bias, improve diversity and quality of ideas, run tests that actually have an impact, level up experience between staff, save time without adding strict processes. So now I'm stressed, right? And but I'm also thinking, as I often do, can AI be used to solve these challenges? But then here's a problem with that, because AI enthusiasm is also a Likert scale, because a lot of people are on the left, not enough with AI, really resistant to AI, to the AI huggers on the right. And most people are towards the left of this Likert scale. So then I came up with a plan, and the plan was this. So I want to create an AI toolbox, and that's what I want to deliver in order to help the PMs. So no process, just tools that they can use in a flexible way. This could take the form of a playbook. The other thing is the delivery mechanism. How are we going to deliver that toolbox? And I was thinking workshop, because a workshop is experiential. It proves the value of AI. It wins over the doubters, and hopefully we all get to have some fun in the process. So at this stage, let's take a slight detour. This does kind of tie in, I swear. So we do experimentation, right? Like, which means we test and learn. Like, this is a test and learn community. And learning is emphasized here because in the end, that's what we want our output to be. So to me, it stands to reason that we should employ some kind of a learning model. And the model I've been taught is a Kolb learning cycle. So some background, I used to be a teacher back in the day. And so this is one of the models that they used to teach us in order to run better classes. And so what's the Kolb learning cycle? Well, the Kolb's learning cycle is this. It's an experiential model of learning. And what that basically means is that we learn from experiences and reflection. So if we look at that cycle, we start with the experience, and then we go to reflection, and we go to thinking, and then go to acting, and then or doing, and then we iterate over the cycle again and again. And as we iterate over the cycle, learning is formed. So here's an example of this in practice. So our guy is experiencing something. He's failing to open the door. Then he reflects on the details of what happened, the details, the symbology, the specifics of what the scene was. And then he's thinking, developing new theories, conceptualizing based on the reflecting of the previous knowledge. So he sees the picture of a bee and then a button, bees buzz, buttons buzz. So then he he says, okay, let's try something different. Press the button, trying something different, and then back around the cycle again. Now, ignore the fact that he should have pressed the button in the first place. But that didn't occur to me when I was drawing this, so that probably tells you something about me. But it's kind of explains the experiential learning cycle. So this was an example of a cycle at the task level, not just micro level, but tasks don't have to be at the micro level. So the task could play out within minutes, hours, but it could also play out over days, weeks, and you could get these concentric circles of learning cycles going out to the farthest sort of reach, which is life. So if there's one thing you should take away from this talk is maybe put a little bit of time for reflection, as life is experiential as well. Luckily for us, though, the learning model is actually present in a lot of these flywheels or whatever it is that we call them. So here are a couple of the flywheels in the background. And the one that I like to use is going from problem exploration to ideation to validation to analyze, and then iterating over this cycle. And I like to call it a learning and research flywheel rather than an experiment flywheel because you could then cater for user research as well as for experiments. It's all just research. It's all just learning. And each on one of these steps will have their own cycles, their own learning cycles. So why am I telling you all of this? Why, if all of this is implicit within our experimentation cycle, why do we need to make it explicit? Well, making it explicit means that we get to inherit the rules and guidance that comes with the Kolb learning cycle. The first one being learning model is flexible. You can start anywhere. So if a hippo comes to you and says, hey, I want you to test this, you don't have to discard the entire experiment cycle. You can just start at the validation step and then go around. But you have to ensure that you understand that where you start impacts the style of the learning. So if you start at the validation stage versus a problem exploration stage, the way that you learn is going to be very different. And wherever you start, you need to go clockwise. Don't go anti-clockwise. You need to go clockwise around. And you need to hit every stage. So if you do get the hippo that gives you that test to start at the validation stage, don't stop our analysis. You got to go around the cycle. And learners need to experience every stage. And by learners, we mean anybody who we want to learn, whether it's a PM, whether it's a specific other human, or whether it's an organization. If an organization needs to be learning, then the organization needs to experience in some way every step. And we also need to reduce the gaps between the stages. So we want to reduce the friction as we iterate around the learning cycle. And finally, this is the most relevant for this talk, but learning, going through each one of those stages, each stage demands a specific state of mind. Doing, experiencing, reflecting, thinking at different states of mind. And we need to experience all of these at each step if we are to learn effectively. So let's go back to the workshop. And if you remember back where we left things, we wanted to create an AI toolbox or a playbook. This is because it would be a flexible sort of approach rather than adding process. We want to ensure that PMs experience using the tools in a workshop setting. So we want them to go through this experiential learning. And we want the delivery mechanism to be a workshop. And that's why we want the delivery mechanism to be a workshop. We also want to focus on the problem exploration and the ideation parts of the cycle. So we want to help product owners explore problems and ideate based on those problems. So now let's get to the solution. And to start with the solution, let's look at some of the AI techniques and principles wanted to keep while creating this workshop. And the first sort of technique principle is to think in terms of multiple interactions. So not think in terms of a zero shot or a one shot, not think in terms of bulk prompt, bulk output, but rather split it into a conversation which you can then direct in a specific way to get the output that you are looking for. The next step is that you need to ensure that you have some way to validate the AI output. So we can't just trust everything that AI gives us. We need to have some way of validating what we've got because AI hallucinates, as we all know. The next thing, and this is pretty big in the AI circles at the moment, is to get AI to self-reflect and review itself. And if you do that properly, if you do get AI to check itself, then what you should end up with is a greater degree of accuracy and a greater quality of output by doing this self-reflection, but only if you do it properly. And then finally, you want to interact like a boss, which basically means that if AI gives you an output, it doesn't mean you have to use that output. It means you have to make a decision about how to use that output, whether or not to throw it away, whether or not to restart going through the cycle and whatever. Think that you are the boss. You're not being led by AI. And so then here's the workshop structure that I had. So step one, set the context. So here we tell the AI about the company or the product, attach a VOC report, a voice of customer report, or some sort of negative feedback or some other sort of data that we want to use. And the reason we're doing that is it's important for AI to give us something that's relevant to us. And in order to do that, we need to feed it good data. So it's about avoiding garbage in, garbage out, but actually it's more like avoiding nothing in, garbage out, which is how a lot of the time it works out. So it's even worse than garbage in. And the second step is that we want to bootstrap ourselves to get us as close to the finishing line as possible. We want to get AI to give us something to kickstart our thinking. Going back to the learning model, where we've got all of these different states of mind, etc. What we really need is a nudge, and what we really need AI to do is to nudge us in a particular, to think in a particular direction. So in order to give ourselves a head start, we need to get AI to help identify the root cause. So it doesn't mean that you take whatever root cause it gives you, but it gives you a flying head start in figuring out whether or not this is the correct root cause, or whether or not there's something else. The next thing is we need to get AI to suggest business and user impact. And by getting AI to suggest that, it gets you thinking about, it nudges you thinking to think about prioritization. Because if you start thinking about business and user impact, you automatically start thinking about what the impact of not solving this problem is. And then we also need AI to give suggestions in terms of measurement metrics. So we need this in order to identify, look, we've got this problem we want to solve. How do we know we're solving it? So in order to start thinking and not miss out on this step, we want AI to at least give us some indication, some clues that could direct us to thinking about what those measurement metrics could be. And then after we do all of that, we want a validation cycle to refer to the data that we set up in step one and ensure that everything that we've got is accurate and that it's all based on data and it's no hallucinations that's happening. The step three, after we've identified the root cause, it's time to go deeper and give us some information we need that to build our issue trees. And to get a deeper understanding of the problems, we need to get AI to break down these issues. And we need to get AI to highlight possible knowledge gaps and also to suggest questions for further research. And we don't just take whatever it is that it's given us. We want to then supplant all of that with our own questions and insights. And everybody familiar with FigJam, by the way? Anybody not familiar with FigJam rather? So on a FigJam board, which is kind of like a whiteboard where people can put up sticky notes and do stuff on, we have these 3 sections. So the first section is a problem exploration and question section. And the output of the first few steps will go in here. So the questions and insights that are going to be added are added here as stickies, but there's no blind copying and pasting allowed from AI. We have to curate before we add stuff onto this board. So the next step after we do that is an easy one. We write problem statements. So using all of the relevant information, we want to get AI to write our problem statements. We want to ensure, or rather, that's because we want to ensure that they're standardized and follow a predictable structure. See, doing this means that we have statements that are useful as a reference and a historical record. I mean, if you imagine that you have hundreds of problem statements to read, it stands to reason that it's going to be easier for you to scan through them all if they have a familiar, predictable structure. So then that means that you can scan through them quite easily. And then the problem statements also go onto the FigJam board in the B section. And then this is my favorite bit, ideation. So here we get AI to kick off our brainstorming solutions. So we get AI to give us some ideas. After that, we brainstorm more ideas using those ideas. After that, we get AI to brainstorm some crazy ideas. And this is my favorite part, because once you get it to generate some crazy ideas, some of those ideas are going to be totally wild, but they will always have some root, some linkage back to the problem. So after we've finished laughing at AI and after we've kind of consoled ourselves, the task is to pick an idea that we think there's something in that idea that I like. We don't necessarily know what it is, but there's something drawing me to this idea. And a crazy thing happens when you take that idea, feed it through AI, and tell it to analyze the themes, because it's like then AI kind of reaches into your gut and then pulls out the themes, the reasons why you were being drawn to this idea. And then you just use those themes to generate more ideas. And that kind of really explodes diversity of ideas that you get. And then you just repeat. And then all of that, just like with previous sections, just go on to the section C. But again, we're not just blind copy and pasting, but we're being deliberate with the ones that we pick. We're curating, basically. And then the final section, obviously, we want to, after doing the workshop, we want some time for reflection. So in some brief highlights of what we learned and how we could apply the tools. So now a few times that I ran this with a client, I had a hard 45-minute time slot to do this workshop. And so the workshop timing would break down something like this, where we're spending majority of the time on the problem exploration and questions, the problem statements, and then part of the time on brainstorming and writing the hypotheses. So then what happened? Well, before I get into the detail, some of these findings are from the recent experimentation elite workshop. So big thanks to Craig for cutting me into that, because that was super insightful, and it was great to do that workshop with you. Now in the experimentation elite workshop, there was more time. So we got attendees to manually add questions and insights before getting the AI involved. And the thing that we found is that exploring problems is hard. The attendees raised very few questions for further exploration of a problem. And when we then employed AI, we found that using AI increased the number of diversity of the questions and insights raised. And all of this forced a deeper understanding of the problems, as it triggered us to think in specific ways and not just to think in ways that we hadn't considered, etc. And what we found as well is that this leveled up the less experience. So when you're looking at the boards, it's very difficult to tell the experience level of a PM, for instance. Which PM did this, which PM did that. It's hard to tell who was a more experienced PM and who was a junior PM. And while all of this didn't get us to full issue trees, it's a big step towards those issue trees, which is good, obviously. And then on the problem statements front, well, it's pretty sort of honestly, we knew this was going to happen anyway. So problem statements were standardized, they were concise and easy and clear to read. The problem statements were easy to scan. There was also, and this was a surprising bit, there was also an element of less pressure to write these problem statements, something that didn't even occur to me, that there was pressure on people to write problem statements. And when you remove that pressure from them, it just means that they can focus on worrying about other stuff. And seemingly, again, there was no difference across experience levels. I mean, obviously, because AI is writing this stuff. Now, with the big one, the ideas. To start off with, I want to point you to a paper. This is the one that you pointed out to me, Craig. Paper on divergent creativity in humans versus AI. Spoiler alert, AI won in that paper, but collaboration, they indicated, would be better. And this is pretty much what we saw. So collaboration with AI seemed to broaden the diversity of ideas. And we know that because with the clients that I took through the problem statement exploration stuff, the workshop, they had already ideated before they came to the workshop. So when they compared their ideas to the ideas after the workshop, you could very clearly see the range and diversity and the number of ideas. And what also became apparent to the product managers is once they saw these range of ideas, that their previously held solution bias became evident to them. It became evident that, previously I'd been holding the solution bias. I was sticking onto this solution when really there were so many other options available. And there was also, remember the relevance bleed, there was also very little to no relevance bleed. So between the problem and the idea, there was a closer link, closer connective tissue between the problem and the idea. And also, as before, we saw that this leveled up the less experienced. So when you explore ideas from a less experienced PM versus a more experienced PM, it's very difficult to tell who's who. So that's obviously a win as well. And all of this came actually with very little time and effort expended. So when we did the 45-minute workshop, it kind of proved how much they got done within that space of time, going from problem exploration right the way through to ideation and writing up some sense of hypotheses in some sort of like a structured format. So then if we go back to our PM, I was actually wrong about the box analogy. See, the box shouldn't have represented an experiment. It's way too passive. A toolbox is more passive, is more active, sorry. So don't give PMs more process, give them toolboxes, and really think whether or not AI can be a tool to help you deliver that toolbox. So further reading, if you haven't had enough of this already. So there's the Divergent Creativity in Humans and Large Language Models paper that I was talking about earlier. There's also the AI Playbook for Research, CRO, and Experimentation that was written with Craig, Marcella, Johan, and I. So some of the playbooks and more playbooks are available in that. You can read up more about the Kolb learning cycle. The issue trees are from the book called Cracked It by McKinsey and Group, specifically their MICE, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive sort of issue trees and problem exploration. You'll find out about that as well in that. Gap selling by Keenan. I think that gets banded around a lot, and continuous habits, discovery habits by Teresa Torres for opportunity trees, which I kind of didn't get into too much, but that can be a part of it. But yeah. Thanks. Any questions?
We have one so far, though I'll remind everybody, you are welcome to take yourself off mute to ask questions, and you can also put questions in the TLC calls. I'm going to scroll to find this question. It was...
Oh, sorry, I forgot to say AI trigger. Oh, it's probably too late to do an AI trigger for people who are who don't like AI, who are allergic to AI.
What? Oh, that's hilarious. Jiva, do you want to ask your question, or do you want me to?
I can.
Go for
Yeah,
it.
so Iqbal, great presentation. Totally agreed with everything. I think I'm probably one of the people who is on the trigger side of AI, just because I think what I've seen a lot of people say what AI can do versus some of the output has been, I have personally been unimpressed by. So I'm trying to like get myself into more of conversations like this. I get that there are great opportunities. I think I still personally feel like we're in the hype cycle where people are like, CRO's dead because AI will do everything, generative AI and all this stuff. Like, not a huge fan of that. But as it taking a step back, I'm just more curious about, are we taking out the human element of some of these research tactics? Like, is there stuff that the AI might miss? And I know Craig kind of commented saying like it's automation, it's basically its own intern. I think that makes sense. But are there any gaps that we have to be aware of on the AI side, taking over some stuff that we would have to supplement with?
Yeah, I mean, you don't want AI to make any major decisions for you, and you don't want to trust AI with anything. So the validation step is actually that could be a whole talk in itself, because how do you validate AI? And that validation step needs to be an important step in the process. So in terms of taking away humans, at this point, I wouldn't take away humans at all. And in terms of the thing with a lot of people saying, hey, look at this output, look at this output, isn't this output great? It's basically, no, we're not there in terms of like a hype cycle. That is part of the hype cycle where basically, you know, one-shot prompt just doesn't exist. But if you think of it as a collaboration, as a conversation to help you get better at what you do, then I think the output is can't be matched, basically. Yeah.
Craig, do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, it was to reply to Shiva and others. It's absolutely true. The first time that we thought, great, we can use AI to extract these opportunity solution problem trees from the taxonomy, the structure of them, and count them up. And it didn't work. And it took us quite a long while to understand, for Iqbal to understand how to fix that, right? But the thing that we have learned is there's an evolution here, right? First, you start playing around with the prompts, right? And the prompts then make you think, if we sort of added this into our workflow, or we picked up tickets from Jira and processed them or did them in this way, then it begins to give you an idea of how the Lego blocks go together. So the kind of playbook book is about little tasks that we know that work. And if you look at all the stuff that you can do with AI and you use your way in the dimensionality of the tasks, stuff we have to get done all the time, we thought, that's what we want to nail. Let's do specific tasks. But then what people do is they then build things with that. So the point of the book is not to get people to build a whole new AI infrastructure. It's just to get them to understand how it can be used. So once they know the Lego, then you can buy better vendor solutions because you know what Lego their stuff is made from. Plus, you also have a critical eye, and you know what things AI is good at when put together from the tasks, and what things it's terrible at. But you won't get that experience unless you engage with it. And so Iqbal and I have had lots and lots of failure to find the tasks that it's really good at. And if you can leverage those things that we know are repeatable because we've tested them and they're good and solid and helpful, then you then learn how to build production systems and ones that you can actually wire into your organization. And we've got a client who in 6 to 8 weeks basically built a whole production system for creating AI images, doing translation and a whole load of other work. And they learned how to do that by playing with the Lego and the AI playbook. So we are just, this kind of work that's in there is just a stepping stone to other things.
Yeah, and also don't forget that normal traditional development methods in architecture, tool architecture, all of that still stands. So so sometimes a solution to a particular problem may not be AI, or it may be something else, or it may be boosted by AI. Maybe the AI involvement will be small, or maybe the AI involvement will be as a decision maker between picking what function you're going to choose or whatever. But basically, think of AI as just yet another tool in your toolbox, if we broaden it out to an overall toolbox, that you can employ, and you only employ it at the right stage. So some people are employing AI when really they shouldn't be employing AI at all for these tasks. So that often as well just muddies the waters a little bit when it comes to looking at the capabilities of AI. Thing to note as well on this slide, in the back of these slides, and I share these slides with you, but these are all of the prompts, or the updated prompts, all 13 prompts to go from problem exploration to idea to writing the hypothesis. I don't want to go through them in the talk because, you know, they're just prompts. It's like, how interesting is a prompt really? But yeah, the concept behind the prompt is probably more important than the actual prompt itself. The prompt itself you can write in fairly different ways, or modify it slightly.
That's awesome, but you will share the deck with the TLC calls channel. Thank you, sir. I will tell you that for those of you who weren't present at Experimentation Elite and the TLC Mentorship Summit, our grand prize winner was a mentee who used generative AI to create his incredibly visually stunning slides. And he spent, I think he said, over 9 hours with the prompts for creating this incredibly visually stunning deck. Vignesh Loganathan, you all are all going to meet all of the mentees because they're coming on the TLC, and you'll see what I mean. And the prompting is actually an incredibly challenging thing, which anybody who's spent any time doing prompting for anything, but especially image prompting, and image prompting, because yes, you know, 12 fingers on one hand is the thing that happens, right? And you've got the image exactly the way you want it, and then you're like, oh, I'd actually like this left corner to be green instead of purple, and you tell them that, and then all of a sudden you end up with 5 fingers on one hand. And these things matter when you're trying to get a message across, for, you know, because somebody's going to notice something like that. And when you're trying to sell something or make a point about something, with AI and you're trying to learn something with AI, you're using prompting skills, and prompting skills do matter. I've actually seen a talk all about prompting. So
and
it's hard.
the way that I think about prompting is that imagine you're getting to know somebody new.
Yes.
So you don't know what language to use when you're communicating with them, what's going to offend them, even though AI doesn't get offended, but still, what's going to offend them, how do you get the most out of them? So there isn't, but the easiest thing to do is to just start talking to it and having conversations with it, and you start to really understand how to talk to AI just through talking to it. So just think of it like a new friend that you didn't know was your best buddy. So yeah.
Marcella, do you have a question?
It was just more of a comment on the image thing, because obviously it's amusing when we have the sort of 12 fingers on one hand stuff, but the most dangerous thing to do with AI generation images of people is the imperceptible stuff and the biases. And it was something that came up in John Ekman's talk at GMS. These things will seep in, and they're far more dangerous than 12 fingers on one hand. And it's things that reconfirm biases and stuff like that. And I had to generate AI images for a piece of research about gender stereotypes in marketing. And I saw all of that coming in very, very heavily. And John mentioned in his talk, because he wanted an image of a stockbroker and it came back all men. So he changed the prompt to say, can I have a female stockbroker? And when he changed it to a female stockbroker, all the women stopped working and looking at the computers and started looking at the camera like this and had loads of makeup on and stuff. So it's these biases that come from human biases that move into the training and then become part of the outputs with images is a really big problem. But yeah, this stuff we were talking that Craig was talking about with the client, thankfully there's no gender biases or 12 fingers on one hand. So
that's harsh and awful. Makes me feel icky. Craig.
Yeah, I had a question for Iqbal. One of the interesting artifacts that has come up has really been how readily people seem to accept these ideas that get generated by the AI. That was one of the surprising things for me. They're just immediately, whoof, that's great, I'll steal that, right? Take full credit. Why do you think they seem to sort of readily accept it, maybe more than their colleagues? You know, is it politics?
There's some people who, like on that Likert scale of AI enthusiasm are way over to that right, and that is not a good place to be, because they think that computers are always right, computers are objective, and that they kind of get too excited with the possibilities, and yeah, they just forget that that the stuff coming out of AI isn't necessarily objective, isn't necessarily bias proof, like Marcelo was saying. It just kind of bias encoded. It's just basically all of the collective biases going into these algorithms. So yeah, I think some people, I think again, it's not understanding the limitations of AI, and some people kind of give it too much credit and think there are no limits and think the limit is much higher, and some people think that the limit is much lower, the bar is lower, and there's few people who actually have had the chance to use it a lot and validate it, that they kind of come somewhere around the middle sort of area. But yeah, I do agree that as well as there's AI resistance, the opposite end is just as damaging. It's something like Shiva pointed out as well with the AI hype cycle. It just kind of diminishes the work everybody else is doing on AI and some of the findings for that. Yep, Shiva.
Go ahead, Shiva.
I think to like summarize that, my takeaway around that is I think this issue AI falls into is extrapolation, and it's the technology is really good and it can do and accomplish some pretty concrete tasks as you've outlined here. I think where sometimes people fall issue to, I think it's pervasive in our industry, but I think people fall issue to is, okay, here's the basis, here's the research, and then here's what you could do with it. But people are like, oh, what I could do with it is never user test again, and like voice
yeah.
a customer,
Yeah.
voice of bots is better and cheaper, right? Like all that stuff is where people, I think part of it is hype cycle, but it's that extrapolation of the insights that people get so excited by and thinking, I could do all these things, where you're rightfully saying, no, 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 like it fits right here and it's really freaking good at this thing right here. But don't try and go out of the box. At some point, maybe that box will grow bigger. Maybe as it trains more, it might get bigger, but keep it in that box, and it's really good for being in that box.
Yeah, I mean, it's like number of people who complain about AI not being good at math. It's like you've got a calculator. Why do you have to use AI to do your 2 + 2 sums? Why don't you use your calculator if you can't use your head? It's basically not understanding what applications to apply to have AI apply to. So yeah, absolutely agree.
I would love to see Iqbal, you create a chart that's like, here's what AI is really good at and can do, and here's what it shouldn't do. I'm looking forward to that chart. Or make it a comic and have some fun with it.
It's just a giant word lake. That is all. It's all these words poured into a giant lake. Think of it like a SQL database. You have to know what you can get out of it before you go fishing in it, right? And it's just a giant word salad, and it's all these biases, stupid articles, smart articles, great stuff, rubbish stuff. It's got the entire unwashed sum of human existence, right? Terabytes of the stuff, right? And you can't ask it questions that aren't there, or you won't get good answers from. So you have to think about what you're querying, and it's a word lake. And once you start to think of that and you look at the tasks, then you understand, that's why it can't really do that. And that's why priming works. Supplying extra context and information really helps. And to Shiva's point, we don't want this to replace people. It's about augmentation. It's helping you do less boring work and do work faster and better quality. So all the stuff that the outcome of the stuff Iqbal was talking about is better quality ideas, better quality hypotheses, better quality experiment design, and faster time to experiment. So increased velocity. These are all things that we keep saying we want. But if you walk back along that scale, like Iqbal says, you find what the root cause is, and it's early on.
Okay, I got to tell you all what's coming up. I'm going to steal screen with you from you really quick.
Yep, steal it.
All right.
I don't need it.
So coming soon, and I haven't even had the chance to update the website yet. Am I sharing the right screen? Yes. So surprise, Jim's coming in July. We're yet to pick the date, but Jim's going to be talking about cracking the code, master modern MMM. We're going to be talking about MMM in July. So that's coming. And then Ruben is going to be on August 2nd, and he's going to be talking about meta-analyses for better learning prioritization and stakeholder alignment. So that's July and August. And then, of course, you guys hopefully know about Experimentation Island. That is the conference known as Conversion Hotel in the Netherlands. We're bringing it to the US. So in February. So go to Conversion Hotel if you haven't already signed up in the Netherlands, and then come to Experimentation Island in February. Hope to see you at all those events. And thank you, Iqbal. Amazing. Really enjoyed it. And everybody have a great weekend. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Iqbal. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.